Hi everybody, I'm Elizabeth Mitman. I am serving So Powerful as volunteer. I am the area manager for the Northeast United States and for the Eastern Canada. Been with So Powerful for probably about a year and a half. Made maybe 100 or so purses, and I love making purses. I love the creativity of the purse. I love the beginner flap pattern that is just completely plain to let you do whatever you would like to do. And so with that, today I'm going to show you 3 different methods. One is going to be an applique on top of a quilted background, which is one of my favorite things to do. And the second one is going to be a really fun cat. It's an applique. You can make them silly with glasses or no glasses. And the third one is going to be a technique that I've been doing. I call it silhouette thread painting. And the reason why I call it that is because it's just a black silhouette of anything that you would like. And you stitch it in black, and it's just really fun, and it makes a really cute little purse. So let me show you those 3 things. Make sure you stay tuned, because at the end, I'm going to show you where to find all the files that you can have a copy of the pattern of the cat and an explanation of what I've just said about how to do both the applique and the thread painting. Okay, here we go. Hi, everybody. This is the applique on the quilted background that I wanted to show you. This is an example of a purse that's already done. So I just wanted to show you how to do this method. So the first thing we're going to do is you're going to need a piece of fusible batting. I buy this it's a Pellon product. I buy it at Hobby Lobby, or Joann's has it as well. Any fusible batting will work great here. So in this example, I've taken a 2.5-inch strip that sometimes you can buy them in jelly rolls, which is what I did with this one, or you can just cut your own, or you can make them any size that you want. So I on a cutting board, I take this and I cut it on an angle like this. Can you see that? And then once I have all those cut, you need about 12 to get up through the whole row. And here's the sample, where you just start at the bottom and you start in the colors that you like. Just lay this one down flat. You put this one on top, sewing right sides together, and you just go every other. So the thick end on this side, then the thick end on this side, then the thick end on that side, and back and forth until you go all the way up your row. And so in this case, oftentimes I like to go from green to blue. So it's sort of like, grassy to sky-like, something like that. And generally speaking, I cut this piece larger than the flap size by, usually I make it around 8 or 9 inches by maybe 11.5 or so inches, because you're going to want to do this piece and then cut your flap out. So we're going to go ahead and sew all these together. And then if you would like, you don't have to, but in this case I just did some random quilting on top of the whole piece that has been sewn together. You can see the quilting lines on the back. And so once you have this all quilted, then you're ready to put anything that you want on the top. So this is where the creativity comes in. Now you're ready for applique. So many choices in terms of applique. This, as an example, was an applique that I bought. I think I got it at Hobby Lobby. And you would this is glued down. Once you press it, you'd be like right on there. And then go ahead and stitch around it to make sure that it's completely down. The other choice would be to make your applique. And in the example of this purse, all I did was take some extra fabric, that any color that you like. In this case, I used orange, and put a fusible web on the back of it, cut out some random petals, fuse the applique onto the quilted piece, and make sure that you're stitching around it either in a decorative stitch, or if you don't have a lot of decorative stitches and you just want to do a zigzag, that works out great. And then that's it. You have an applique on top of a quilted bag. And that's it for that example. Then the next thing I wanted to show was the cat applique. So this is my kitty cat, and I like to do him in a lot of different colorways. Pick any color that you like. You can see it not necessarily a cat color, but I think that they're fun just to do them in different color. So this outline of this cat, I'll put in the files on the So Powerful page, so you can copy this shape exactly if you would like. But basically you're doing the exact same thing. We're using a fusible web product. I like the Steam 2. It's the light version. Again, I get it at Hobby Lobby. You can buy this in a pack like this or in a roll, but it's really super easy. You just peel one of there's two papers to it. Peel the top paper off, iron it onto the back of the fabric, cut out your design, and then it'll fuse right fabric that you're using. And whenever you do that, you're going to want to make sure that you stitch the edges. Even though it's glued down, you want to make sure that it's really super secure. So here's another version of the cat. Here he is with glasses. Again, you can do anything that you like. Here I have really silly blue whiskers and bright glasses. So again, this pattern is going to be on the file. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to cut out this large piece of the cat, and then this little belly piece is a separate piece, and then the eyeglass piece is another piece, and you can cut out round circles for the eyes. And you're just basically like gluing it all on. And then as you're gluing it on, you just go around and edge stitch, and then add in your decorative pieces for the mouth and the whiskers and so forth. So here's a third one where, in this case, I had just glued it down. You see, I don't have any stitching on the edges. After you glue it all down, that again, the next thing's going to be to really like secure this edge. And then oftentimes I like to go into this negative area, background area, and just quilt it just for fun. Sometimes I don't. Whatever you like is fine. Anything goes. So that's it for the cat. And then the last thing I wanted to show you was, oftentimes I do this silhouette applique. And everybody asks me about it because sometimes it's called thread painting. So what you're doing is you're doing the exact same thing that you just did for the other appliques, in that you're adhering some of the fusible web to the back of the fabric, and then you go and you cut out the silhouette that you would like, and you iron it onto your base fabric. And then I'm going to show you how to do it on the machine. And then you go in and you just take your, in this case, black thread on black silhouette, and you're just going to stitch it down, stitch it back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and follow the design. And that's how you do this, what could be called thread painting on a silhouette design. So I'm going to show you that on the machine in a minute, but I just wanted to show you an example of this. And I have a second. So in this case, this is going to be my purse. I'm going to put this on this pink fabric, and I'll use this as the back piece. And I made a strap out of the webbing and the green, and that'll be the purse. And then as a second example, this is another silhouette design. Hopefully you can see that it's a guy with a microphone in his hand and some musical notes, and exactly the same thing. Where I get the silhouettes from is I go on my computer and I Google free, that's the important part, clip art of, and then you can put in what you're looking for, dancer or singer or whatever. In this case, I think I did singer. And then free designs will come up, and then you pull it up, save it onto your computer, and then when you go to print it, you just want to get a print that's going to be about the size of a 6-inch square, is usually pretty nice for silhouette. So here's an example of a horse that's been printed out on the computer, and then here he is cut out of, hang on, I'm going to switch backgrounds. Here he is cut out of, here's the steam on the back. And here he is cut out of black fabric. And I was thinking of maybe putting him right here on this, what we might consider green grass. And I thought this would be the one I could show you on the sewing machine, how to like stitch him in. Okay, so I'll switch over to the sewing machine and show you that. So here we are at the machine. I took my horse and I ironed him down. See, he's pretty well adhered to my fabric. I have black thread and black bobbin, and I'm going to drop feed dogs. So I'm going to do free motion on my machine. Okay, there we go. And I have a foot on, a quilting foot on, not a regular foot. So you basically have the feed dogs dropped and a quilting foot on, black thread on the top, black thread on the bottom. Okay, so now here's our horse. And I think I will start maybe with his ears. Hopefully this isn't too loud. My machine isn't too loud for you, but here we go. And I'm going to slow it down a little bit, make it life easier. Okay, so you just following the design And now I'm going to go around his head, around his mouth, and back up. And then I'm just going to fill the area like it would be. Here's his nostril. I'm going to come up through his head. I'm just going to keep coming up through his head. I like to think that my needle is if you were coloring with a colored pencil. So you would maybe do the outline, and then you would come in and you would just fill in like you would be doing it with a colored pencil. You just go in the direction that you think the mane is going. And now we're going to do his body. And again, you're just going to be up and down and up and down. And it doesn't have to be a complete fill. Whoops, I went over. And through his leg. Hang on, I gotta move this thread. Something on my thread is not happy there. Okay. And again, you're just following the silhouette and fill him in the way that you think that he would go. So in this case of his leg, obviously it's going up and down. And now we're going to go across because it's his belly. And here we go up and down again with his leg, his hoof. I might go across his hoof there. Okay, and up his leg. I'm not sure why my thread is jumping around like that. And now this is the fun part. So let's say you're doing something that's loose, like hair or tail, a mane. You don't have to stick exactly on the black. You can go past it and give like a little bit more whimsical look. See that? Go past. I like to do that particularly on curly hair. And across his back. And then for his body, you can do as much or as little as you want. And again, you would typically go in the direction of the the body. But honest to goodness, you really can't do it wrong. So you just keep doing it until you feel like you have everybody is all pretty secure. You like the way the stitching looks. You're happy with the whole deal. I'm going to trim the initial thread. There he is. And that's it. All finished. And here's what the back looks like. Let's see if you have a good view of that. Oh, there he is. And what I like to look, when I like to look at the back, I like to see if I missed any spots, because on the front you're doing black on black, right? So it's hard. I mean, you can see the stitches, of course, but when you look at the back, you're talking black on white. So it's just super easy to say, oh, I missed his whole belly over there, and then go back and add some stitches if you think you need more in a particular area. But this is it. It's so easy and it looks so good. I really like the look. It's definitely adhered there. Of course, you have a million stitches in there, so it's definitely staying. And I'm going to take you over. I'm going to walk you over to my ironing board. Can you see like a little wave? Yeah, there you go. You see a little wave in the fabric and stuff. And so before you cut, you're going to want to give it a super press, nice and steamy. And now he's super, super flat. You looking good there? And so now the next step would be, of course, just to take your flap pattern. And remember how I said make it bigger than the flap? See about how much bigger it is? Because you want to just have the flexibility of being able to put your design where you want, or let's say like in my case, I have these little spots over here that are, negative space. You wouldn't want to, if you cut it too close, you wouldn't want to have a problem with getting that in the seam. So that's why I like to make this whole thing bigger than the flap pattern. So what I do is I take the flap and I fold it in half, and that gives you a nice center line. And then you can more or less eyeball where the center of this horse is. And then I line that up like that. And I open them up and I'm like, ta-da. So, and then the same thing in a horizontal direction, I might, do this and say, okay, well, if I put this here, the bottom of my hoof is, like an inch up. So basically you want to place the flap pattern on this piece exactly where you want it. And then you just proceed as normal. You just cut your flap out, you sew the lining piece, you turn it just like you would in a regular lining, edge stitch it. I would not worry about trying to, like in this case, I have all this quilted in. So when you go to stitch it, you're going to have this in the seam allowance, and it just works out fine. Like you don't have to worry about trying to get this batting fabric off of the seam. No problem. It works out really great. So that's it. Here, I'll show you this. This is an example. Oh, I closed the top. But this is an example where in here I have the same batting fabric. I like to use this fusible web a lot because I think it makes just such a really nice flap. It just adds like a little extra, thickness to it. And I just really like the way that it works. So I almost always have this fusible batting in my flaps. And so my point was, you can see on the edge, it's not really super thick. Like you would think that with 2 layers of batting in here, you would have like a big bulge here or something. No, it's pretty good. It's really nice and flat. It's really super, super easy to do. Anyway, it looks great. And that's how I enjoy doing it. We're going to recap the 3 different methods that I wanted to show you today. The first one is applique on top of quilted flap. And in this case, we did triangles in this method and sew them onto fusible batting and press them down and cut it out in an oversized piece, oversized to the flap. So you want to be about 8 or 9 inches by about 11 inches will work out great. And once you have this finished, you can go ahead and add quilting if you'd like, or you don't have to, whatever that you would like. So in applique, there's just a lot of different ways to do it. Quick and easy is a purchased applique. This was an applique that I bought at Hobby Lobby, obviously a bicycle with the cute little flowers. And if you would to heat seal this on with your iron, it would adhere to it really nicely, but you do want to go ahead and stitch around it so that it's permanently adhered and it won't come loose or so forth. Here's another purchased applique. This is also, I think, from Hobby Lobby. Again, this is just stuff that I had in my stash of stuff. These two appliques, and I think that either one of them would be really cute on this background. But this is the fun part of this. This is the the art part, the creative part. It's just fun. This is another purchased applique. It's just a little flower, and it came in groups of different colors and different sizes, and so you could just toss these around on here. And again, the same thing, you would heat seal them down with your iron and then go around and stitch them all down. That looks kind of cute with the red flowers. And another thing you could do would be place some buttons, some fun buttons, or you can go ahead and make your own applique out of any design that you want. So in this case, we took that applique and made it into our So Powerful purse, and used a very simple, daisy pattern, just adhering the fusible web to the back of the fabric, ironing it onto your quilted background, and then putting a stitch around each part of the applique so that it will absolutely stay adhered to the quilt part without, coming off. You wouldn't want to just leave it as a glued down piece. You definitely want to stitch it. In this particular case, I used, let's see if you can give you a better example, close up. I used a fancy stitch on my machine. It was under the heirloom group around this edge, and then I used a different stitch on the yellow. While I have this purse up, I'll just show you, this is front of the purse. Oh, this was also a purchased applique. It's just a little tiny heart. And again, I heat sealed it on, and then I went around and put a little zigzag stitch on it to make sure it's completely adhered. In this purse, I used a pink twill for the purse, and for the front, it has a little pink lining and a green webbing, home sew. It has an inside pocket where I put a little heart, applique heart. You can see that. On the back of the purse, it has a back slip pocket, and I put I had a little piece left over of Renaissance ribbon where that pink was almost an identical match. So I thought, oh, I got to use that. So anyway, that's a piece of Renaissance ribbon on the back pocket. Here's a second example of the quilted flap. Again, it's just in my favorite colors, the green up to the blue, sort of looking like grass up into sky. This particular one, let's see if I get you a little bit closer, has quilting stitches along here. Very, very random, nothing fussy, just stitching it down. And then what I did for this one was I took a piece of orange, again, same thing. It has the heat bond on the back, just glue it down with your iron onto the quilted fabric. And then here I did I think it was a zigzag stitch, stitching it permanently down onto the quilted flap. And then I took a blue check piece that I had laying around and did like a blanket stitch to hold that in. And then on the on the green leaf and stem, it did like a blanket stitch, just for a little something different, to stitch that down to permanently adhere it. So this is the beginner purse. It is the beginner flap, and it gives you I'm going to show you the pattern. It gives you a blank canvas to do absolutely anything that you like, which is why I love it so much. Here I had lined it in denim. I put a really bright lime green front on it with a denim inside piece. And this is just a piece of purchased ribbon, probably from Hobby Lobby. I did a blanket stitch to hold that piece of trim down. And on this purse, the back is also in the bright lime green. I put that trim on the back pocket as well, and it has a denim on the inside. Again, I used a green webbing from Home Sew for the strap, and I used a denim pocket. I had an extra piece of, this is also Renaissance ribbon. This has bees on it, and so I thought that'd be fun to add on the inside. It's a denim pocket against the bright green. So that is our first technique, which again is any applique on top of any kind of quilted flap. Again, I did triangles. You could do straight lines, you could do curves, you could do blocks, you could do small quilt, patterns. Your applique can be your own design, anything that you want, from simple to complicated. It can be a purchased applique. It can be buttons, trim, anything that you like to decorate this. Or you could just do this quilted flap and without an applique. One of my favorite things is to do the quilted flap and just put a simple heart, and it just comes out really cute and sweet and easy and fun, and I just really like it a lot. So that's our first technique, is applique on quilt. So this was, again, the beginner flap of the So Powerful beginner purse. It's a very plain flap. And what I did was I picked this polka dot back fabric. I decided to add the turquoise twill to the edges. And the reason why I did that was sometimes white is maybe not that great for the purses, but if you just use a little, maybe it's okay. So I decided to add in the teal just to get away from having too much white. And then I decided to make this yellow cat because it had this really fun sort of swirly fabric to it. And I gave him green eyes and an orange plaid belly. For the eyes, I used green fabric. I'm going to see if I get it really close up there. Green fabric. And I used a blanket stitch in blue to go, well, the teal blue, to go around the edge of the eye. And it sort of gives them a kind of a neat little eye look. And then the black pupil. First, I used a Sharpie marker to mark it in. And then I went with my sewing machine, and on a zigzag, I just went zigzagged over my black marker. And that's how I got his pupil. On the nose, I did kind of the same thing. I just marked in with a pencil where I wanted the nose to be, and I got some pink thread on my machine in a zigzag, and I just did a fill stitch and filled in the shape of the nose. And the same thing, I'm going to show you real close. Oh, show you the mouth. I did just a satin stitch, which is just a zigzag really close together. I penciled it in, and then I stitched around it to give the nose. And guess what? The exact same thing for the whiskers. So on this fella, we have a couple of stitches. One is the blanket stitch that's on my machine that I really like for the edging of applique. If you don't have a blanket stitch, I'm sure you have a zigzag, and zigzag works out just fine. But again, you want to adhere that. You want to put some stitch there because you want to adhere it permanent to the flap. Okay, so that's our cat. I lined him in the orange plaid, and that's him. So this is the exact same cat in a different fabric. So here I use this purple polka dot, and I did give it some quilting stitches on top of, I was doing it on top of fusible batting. I cut out my cat, this time in polka dot, and I gave him a striped belly. I attached the cat to, let me see if I can see it real close. Oh, here we go. I attached the cat to the background using that blanket stitch. Again, zigzag would work out just great. I did his eyes the exact same way I told you before. I cut it out of green fabric. I glued it on with the fusible web, and then edge stitched around it. In this case, again, I used the blanket stitch. I gave him black pupils with satin stitch in black thread. And his nose, can you see the nose? I cut out of it was a piece of pink faux leather. Just happened to have this little piece around. Anything that you have works. In his mouth, I had a piece of black ribbon. So I shaped that into the shape of his mouth, and then I just zigzagged right on top of the black ribbon. His whiskers, they're kind of silly, right? So they're blue and they're sparkly. So what I used for that was I bought this piece of ribbon at Hobby Lobby. I cut it to the width that I wanted and put it on top, and just did a zigzag that was as wide as the piece that I cut. So it is completely adhered down. That's the most important part, is that you really don't want like loose ends. You can see this is really, really on there. You really don't want anything that's loose or coming off. So just match the color and just zigzag right on top. It's going to be completely adhered. And then the other thing I wanted to show you is on this guy is I did some really silly glasses. And this is a piece of faux leather in like a sparkle silver, and it came on a roll. It was $4, I think. And then when you see the pattern, I'll tell you where to find the pattern for this cat. You just cut the eyeglasses out, and you're going to, let me get this close. You're just going to stitch those glasses down. Again, the same rule applies. You want to have everything completely stitched down, really, really adhered. Don't just glue it down. You have to really stitch it in and make sure that it's completely adhered. So again, that's our cat, and he's just really fun, and he just makes a really fun, so powerful purse. I just really, really, really love, my favorite thing in the world is the plain flap of the beginner pattern of the So Powerful purse, because it's just a complete blank canvas. You just do what you want, and it's just so much fun, so addicting. It's just a lot of fun. It's like being in kindergarten again with the cut and play, and it's just fun. Okay, so now I'm going to show you a recap of our last technique, and that was the silhouette. In this case, we did the horse, and so you can do the silhouette on any background that you like. In this case, I just did it on the triangles that we did earlier. And So you're going to use I like Steam to Seam Light. It's a fusible web that you would attach to the back of the black fabric, and then you cut your silhouette out of the black fabric. Once that fusible web is adhered to the back, you cut out your silhouette, and then you adhere it to the background fabric of what you're going to be sewing by just pressing it on with your iron. And then once you do that, you're going to just take your sewing machine, drop those feed dogs, use black thread both in the bobbin and in the top, and you're going to put it on. If you have free motion, that works out best. And you just stitch around like you were taking a colored pencil and just like coloring the horse in. You would just go around the outside edges, and you would fill in like you would do if you were coloring it. And that's how you do thread painting. That's all in one color. I don't want to make it confusing, but sometimes thread painting gets really, really complicated and really, really beautiful. That's why I almost hate to call this thread painting, because lots of times when you talk about thread painting, you might see this in actual colors where you would take the horse's face, might be 3 different colors, and you would use those 3 different thread colors and you would blend them into each other. That's really thread painting. But this is the technique. It's the same technique, but you're using all one color, which is all black on top of black fabric. And that's why I call it silhouette thread painting, because it's black on black. Okay, and that's that. So I'm going to have some files, and I'm going to put them into the So Powerful Purse Project group on Facebook. So that's the So Powerful Purse Project group on Facebook, and you will find that in the file section. I will give you a copy of like the shape of the cat that will include, the eyeglasses and so forth, so you can make the cat if you would like. And I'll give you a description on how to do the other processes that we did earlier. And if you're not a member of the So Powerful Purse Project, oh my goodness, it's so much fun. Please ask to join, and we'll be happy to have come join us. It's really, really a great group. Everybody is so encouraging. It's so much fun to see other people's work. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful group. So if you would like to join it, again, it's So Powerful Purse Project group in Facebook. All right. And then once you get there, you look for the file section and you can see the files for these 3 projects. So thanks so much for joining me. I hope you had a great time. It was fun to talk to you. Bye now. Hi, everybody. Did you ever buy the assortment pack of straps from Home Sew? They give you at least 54 inches to make the strap that you need, but then you always end up with those ends, and they're like a little bit too long to throw away. You hate to throw them away. So I kept just like stashing them in a drawer. So the other day I decided to get them out, and I made a flap. I'm going to show it to you this way. I took a piece of teal fabric, you can see the color right on the end, and I just used a blanket stitch. Well, I drew a straight line on the fabric to make sure I was going straight, and then I stitched it with a blanket stitch on the edge of the webbing, and then I left about 1/8 of an inch facing, so you can see the teal fabrics peeking through. And then I stitched the next one and the next one and the next one, and I left 1/4 inch on both ends, and it ended up the exact width for the flap. And here I had woven in between, I had the teal color that actually matched my fabric from behind. And I thought when I was making it, this isn't gonna work. This isn't gonna work, because how am I gonna turn this and stitch it? It's gonna be so thick. But no, it like worked out so great, and the edge is not super thick. It's really neat. And it's just, I'm gonna turn it this way. It makes just such a fun little flap. I lined it in yellow. So anyway, give it a try, see what you think. I really love it.